Good morning, y'all. Welcome back to the Porsché Mysticque Show. We're about to go live on BWC. We're being transferred over right now. If you're watching live on YouTube, Instagram, what's up? Good morning. We're tapping in Breakfast with Champions on Clubhouse. This is happening right now. We're about to go live right here. So we're setting it up. Shantae Health Wells just finished a very powerful session.
Without further ado, we're going over to Porsché. That could be unique skills. Porsché, the mic is yours.
Good morning, y'all. Thank you, Pastor Jeff and Health. Girl, you got me going through my whole cabinet. Like, yeah, you gotta go, you gotta go, you gotta go. Throw that away in the fridge. We don't need this. We don't need that. We're about to do a whole overhaul. That's crazy. But what's up, y'all? My name is Porsché Mysticque Show, award-winning publishing strategist, TEDx speaker, coach. And listen, right now, I'm in this space of turning content creators into moguls, and it has been extraordinary. Now, y'all know before I was doing turning founders into thought leaders by helping them create intellectual properties, aka they books. They need to write books. It's been a powerful experience, and it has been elevating my whole brand in a different way. We're gonna talk about that, but we need to have an AI conversation, y'all. We need to have an AI conversation, especially in the world of publishing, in the world of books, because something is shifting yet again, and it's about to impact everybody. But listen, y'all, it's 6 o'clock in the morning over here on the West Coast. So you know I'm bringing this energy really early. If you needed coffee, don't go get it. You got me, okay? Red Bull and heels. That's what we do. Bringing all the energy. Now, before we begin, you know I need to do my poll. So for all of my authors, if you've written a book, and unfortunately, no, anthologies do not count. Collaboration books don't count. If you own a solo book and it is currently available for sale, can you put a 1 in the chat for me? Put a 1 in the chat. Put a 2 in the chat if you have a whip, a work in progress. Work in progress. Put a 2 in the chat if you have a work in progress, meaning you are currently writing the book or it is in production phase and it is not yet published. Put a 3 in the chat if you're like, I've been thinking about it, but I haven't done it yet. No, the book is not out. I haven't published it yet. I haven't started production and none of that. And put a 4 if you were just totally disinterested. Like you ain't even trying to write a book. That's not something that you want to do, not something you're interested in at all. Okay, Pastor Jeff is a 1. GA is a 1. Pastor Jeff also has a work in progress. Okay, Lindsay is a 1. Health is a 2. Michael is a 2. Alicia also has 1 and 2. Glory, what was 2? I don't know how it's past tense too. Chris is like, miss me with all of that. Okay, thank you very much. No book for me. Denise is a 3. She's been thinking about writing. Okay, let me backtrack for a second let's start with the headline. That's the biggest thing. So as some of you hopefully know, Anthropic has recently announced, maybe about 2 weeks ago now, Anthropic is the AI organization that owns Claude, okay? Anthropic announced that they are now adding watermarks, invisible watermarks to everything generated using their system. It is a watermark that you cannot see, and even when you copy and paste, that watermark will still exist. We won't be able to see it with our eyes, but systems will be able to detect it. So if you are creating anything inside Canva using Anthropic's tools, if you are generating text inside of Claude, if you are generating images inside of Claude, all of that is going to have an invisible watermark. So systems and the programs and anybody who wants to do a little bit of a deep dive or even break down the code attached to whatever it is that you're publishing, that watermark will be there and they will know that it was AI generated. Ugh. Now, you know what? My is not even anger toward Anthropic. I actually think this is beneficial for those of us in the publishing world, but for everybody else who is like, hey man, but I've been using AI to write copy for my website. I've been using AI to fill out grants. I know a lot of people are doing that. I've been using AI to design my graphics or my images, and a lot of people are using AI to design their book covers. Yeah, If you use Claude, that watermark is gonna be there. And that is shifting everything because consumers, number one, are pissed. Right now, there's always going to be this conversation around what we allow with AI, what works, what doesn't work, what upsets us, what makes us happy. The conversation is ongoing because it's still the wild, wild west. There is no legal regulation around AI right now, other than the fact that if you generated a book with AI, you cannot copyright it with the United States Copyright Office. Okay. Can't happen, won't happen. Now, that's really about the content because when you copyright your book, you're never copyrighting the cover. You're actually just copyrighting the written content that exists within the pages. But with an AI generated cover, it really does limit how far your book can go. So if you ever decided, hey, I want to submit my book for book awards, not if your cover is generated with AI, you're not, because they will not accept it. Publishing deals are being canceled. Yes, after a publishing company says yes to an author and they then later find out that that book was used or was written using AI, they're pulling the book deals. Like I'm talking 6-7-figure book deals are being shut down due to allegations of AI usage. And yet everybody's like, well, let me continue to do it, right? Because why not? AI does speed up the writing process. And I'm using writing with air quotes. For those who are watching me on Instagram and YouTube, you can see the air quotes. Clubhouse people, air quotes, okay? Writing your book using AI, it speeds up the process. It also helps with brainstorming. It does all the things. But because there's not a lot of regulation around it, a lot of people feel like, well, hey, we are free to just continue to do that. And going back to those collaboration books, a lot of authors who were tasked with writing a single chapter in an anthology are writing their chapters with AI and then not letting the curator of that anthology book know that they used AI. It's crazy. Now, I don't want to bash the use of AI because I do believe it can be helpful in the creative writing process. And that'll be things like brainstorming, outlining, even research, depending on which platform you use. And it really can be a strategic thought partner that you can bounce ideas off of that sets you up to be able to write beautifully. I mean, one of the leading causes of writer's block is because you simply can't formulate your thoughts quick enough to keep up with your pen. So a lot of people are like, okay, well, I know what I want to write. I know what I want to say, but I don't know how to say it. And I don't know in the order in which it should appear. Those types of questions can be passed into AI, and AI can kind of bounce back with you back and forth to really get your thoughts going, to get those creative juices flowing so that you can write with power. You see what I'm saying? So we're not going to bash AI. However, we do have to be mindful of the fact that people who are generating books with AI are being thrown into a category all on their own. And it is also impacting the editing industry, which is going to be the crux of our conversation today. Now, before I get into that, I'm going to pause here. How are you guys feeling about this whole Anthropic watermark situation? Anybody want to chime in?
Humbug.
Give it to me, GA. Why we buy humbug about it?
Because you know me, I've got a really odd kind of from left field thought process about it. Because I fundamentally, because I know the back end of what's going on with the twins, with Daniela and I call him Dominica, but Holiday. And from everything that I've seen, especially with their IPO going public later on this year, this is just a play for them to actually set up the same system that OpenAI is setting up to actually create a different income stream so that people can actually pay a separate subscription for the watermark removal tools. That will be a high-end ticket price and a part of a huge, instead of the $200, the $500 out of enterprise package. It's a setup. It's classic. It's been done 1,000 times, and that's why I say bah humbug. I'm like, you guys are you're sloppy. You're not even trying to hide what you're doing. So that's what I'm pissed about.
So it's a money grab, you're saying?
Absolutely it is. They're going, they're going public. They're going to launch their IPO at the end of this year. And OpenAI and Anthropic are in a race to get the higher actual, just like SpaceX just did, and it was like ginormous. That's what's going to happen at the end of this year. They've already set that up. They're already setting up the back end because they've already bought in a terraformer that's down in Texas, one of the largest data server systems that's built in North America. All of that's all linked together, and it's all backed by Microsoft, Apple, and NVIDIA. That's where the money comes from, and BlackRock. This is an all gamified money grab. It is. And I'll talk about it on Thursday.
Ooh, okay. You're going to have to drop the information about Thursday in the chat. Because you know what? That makes a whole lot of sense. It was the same thing that Meta did before they released the whole verified badge with all the different tiers. They started setting it up. So all of a sudden, people are just being hacked. And then the only way to get back into your account is to have a paid subscription with Meta.
Ding, 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 ding.
Ooh, baby. Okay. At the end of the day, though, I hear you, Pastor Jeff. Go ahead, Leslie.
No, I was just going to say, GA, thank you for that, because that was the question that I was going to unmute. I was going to ask, does anybody know why they're doing this? So GA, yeah, that was perfect. And back to the Meta with the verification, I paid for the verification. And not only did I get hacked twice while on verification, I got cloned. So I don't pay for that no more. So that's all.
Wait a minute. Backtrack. So you paid for the subscription so that you could speak to customer support to try to get back into your account, but it didn't help?
Let me see if I remember. I didn't pay for the subscription. I got hacked and I got cloned, paid for the subscription, and then got cloned. And once I got cloned and then got that fixed, I just discontinued paying for it. And this happened maybe a year and a half ago. So I don't have that verification checked no more. I had it at one time. So to me, it was just like a waste of money. Me personally.
Yeah.
Because of what happened.
That's wild. Okay, so that's definitely another conversation that we're going to have in the social media world. But going back to the Anthropic watermark situation. Now, I have this prediction that because of that watermark, and people are, of course, under the impression that they don't want people to know that their books were written using AI or that their images were generated using AI. Some people just straight up don't care. But for those who do care, we're going to go back to this phase of now everybody is writing their books, which brings me to a much larger issue that we need to have a conversation about. So, as you know, if you were going to professionally publish your book needs to be edited. Now, what most people don't know is that there's 4 types of editing, 4 main types, let's just say. There's developmental editing, copy editing, line editing, and proofreading. Most people make the mistake of thinking that editing is simply proofreading, which is why they will have the auntie, the uncle, the cousin, the mama, the friend who's a teacher, they got a friend who's a lecturer, they got a friend who's a journalist. They will call those people and say, hey, can you edit my book for me? I'm done writing it. Or they'll have a spouse or a friend who just happens to be really great at grammar, or because they used to work for a newspaper, they'll say, hey, can you edit my book for me? But what they're actually asking for is, can you proofread this to make sure that I have no typos, no grammar errors or misspelled words or anything like that, right? That's proofreading. Now, remember the different types of editing. First is developmental. Developmental editing is one of the hardest forms of editing. And I would say one of the longest forms, right? It takes a lot longer to developmentally edit a book, because what you're doing is you're looking at the book as a whole. So instead of looking line by line, sentence by sentence, word for word, you're looking almost in chunks, like chapters by chapters or paragraphs by paragraphs. And what you're looking for is continuity issues. Does this make sense? Does it flow? Is it helping us to create the look and the feel that we want our readers to have? Does this convey the message? For fiction books, this will be things like plot holes and, as I mentioned, continuity issues. So did you say your character had glasses in chapter 1, but all of a sudden they did something in chapter 7 and they didn't need glasses for it? You know what I mean? So those types of issues or plot holes is something that a developmental editor would catch. In the nonfiction space, developmental editors are looking at your entire process. We want to know, number one, why did you write this book and what is the call to action at the end? What is it that you plan to do with your book? Is it going to bring you clients? Is it going to open up doors to speaking? Is it going to really help you grow your brand or grow your visibility? If that's the goal, did you write in a way that allows that to happen? And aren't there any sections or parts in your book where it does not allow us to do that thing? Maybe it's just fluff. Maybe it doesn't sound good. Maybe it doesn't feel good. That's developmental editing. And developmental editors are badasses, excuse my language. Like, they're incredible, because developmental editors a lot of times have to make the hard decisions to cut full sections and then tell the author, hey, I know you worked really hard on this, but we're Xing out this whole thing. You have to rewrite it. Right? So they have to be the tough ones, which is why they also get paid a pretty penny. And we'll talk about rates in a second. The second and third type of editing is copy and line editing. Now, just so you know, most people who are good at developmental editing do not like to do copy, line, and proofreading. They don't like to do it, right? Because it requires a different part of the brain. It requires different type of energy in order to make it happen. And it's a little bit more tedious, right? A developmental editor probably has like an engineer kind of mindset where it's almost like putting pieces of a puzzle together, trying to figure out how something works. If something's broken, can they fix it? But a copy and line editor, they're a little bit more meticulous, right? Kind of technical almost. So they're looking at your content on a paragraph or sentence level. So does tone of voice match? Does the sentence make sense? Is it a run-on sentence, right? Can we divide the sentence up to make it sound a little bit different? And it also includes sometimes fact checking. Did you say something in here that should be verified or cited, right? That's copy and line editing. Again, that's a different type of skill. So it's usually a different person that's doing that. And then you have the final proofreading. And this is what really anybody can do who has a really good eye, who doesn't mind going through something with a fine-tooth comb. Proofreading, like I said, is checking for typos, punctuation issues, the mechanics of grammar. Did we make any grammatical mistakes and things like that, right? So really anybody can do that. Now, in the world of editing, what you're doing is reviewing the content that's already written. It is not the editor's job to rewrite anything you've written. That's not the editor's job, right? That is the job of a ghostwriter. A ghostwriter's job is to write on your behalf, not an editor. So when an editor is looking at content that has been given, they will tell you what they think you should change, maybe even how they think you should change it, but they should not be rewriting it for you. But here's what I noticed. Here's the shift that we need to pay attention to in this day and age. I have, I would say, anywhere between 4 and 7 manuscripts come across my desk every single month. And a majority of them are AI-generated manuscripts. These are books fully written, and they used AI to write the whole thing. So they will take this manuscript and say, here, I've written this book. I think it's awesome. I loved it. Can you begin the editing process? Now, again, remember there are 4 types of editing: developmental, copy, line, and proofreading. So that's usually the first thing that we do. We start with a book review. Once we review the book and say, yes, this is good, we move it forward to developmental editing. Then it moves to copy. Then it moves to line. Then it moves to proof. Okay. Now, if your book is AI generated, your editor is going to be able to clock that immediately. They'll know right away that this is AI generated, which means the editor now has to go back to the author and say, I love you. I think this book is great. We're going to have to scrap it. Scrap the whole thing. We can't publish this because, remember, you cannot copyright, at least in the United States, you cannot copyright a book that was AI generated. And it's starting to bleed into AI assisted. Now, there's a distinction between the two, right? AI assisted is when you're having AI kind of work with you. And as I mentioned, like as a thought partner and all the things. But if AI is writing any of the text, any of the content, and you're copying and pasting that content content into your manuscript, that's still AI generation because there are sentences in your book that you did not write. Whoa, pause. It's important for you to understand the difference between the two. But regardless, US Copyright Office is like, we don't care. We don't care if it's AI assisted, AI generated. If any of the text in your book you did not write, you can't copyright it. So as an editor, when we look at the book and we say, hey, okay, I'm already clocking a couple of AI sentences or maybe even AI style, we have to put it inside of an AI checker. We see what the percentage is. If it's over 10%, we're done. We have to start over. But so many people are doing it nowadays that when they have to start from the drawing board, the editor is not working on the project. And if the editor isn't working on the project, then they're not being paid. So a lot of editors are now having projects stall because the author had to go back to the drawing board, which means money is being left on the table. So editors are agreeing to take on these projects anyway. An AI generated manuscript is sitting on their desk. The person says, yes, I will pay the fee. And it's usually anywhere between as little as $1,000 and even as much as $30,000. And that's because most editors charge as little as 1 cent per word up to 10 cents per word. And depending on the size of your book, you can do the calculation and see how much it costs. So editors are saying, yeah, fine. Okay, I'll take the project because they're hard to come by. You keep sending authors back to the drawing board, so you're not getting projects. You're not being paid as a freelance editor. So you take on the project. So what do you have to do now? Because, well, this book right here has to be rewritten. So editors are stepping into the role of ghostwriter. Right now, today, as of today, we have more editors that are becoming ghostwriters than ever before, and not even intentionally. And I'm here to tell you right now, professional editors, we hate that. We hate having to become a ghostwriter. Why? Because ghostwriters charge about 10 times more than an editor. That's because the job of a ghostwriter is to understand the author. We have to understand how you think, how you feel, how you speak, how your body even physically reacts. For me, I say ghostwriting, really good ghostwriting, is very similar to method acting, right? It's almost like when you're watching somebody in a biopic or biopic, however you want to say it, a biopic, and they are having to act as this historical character. What do? Well, they take the time to research that character. They understand the way that they speak, the way that they move, the way that they think, the things that they would normally say, how they would react to something. A good ghostwriter has to be good at that so that they can write on your behalf, which is why ghostwriting usually starts at $25,000 and goes up from there. Now, if you're looking at some of these celebrity books, and I always like quote Will Smith because Will Smith was very public about using a ghostwriter. His ghostwriter was, I know his fees start at $200,000 to just even start working on the project, let alone finalizing it, like writing the whole thing. That's 200 grand. So you can see ghostwriters are charging way more than editors. So if we're in a day and age right now where editors are becoming ghostwriters, it is my prediction that editors are going to start increasing their rates out the wazoo. Whether you used AI for your book or not, editors are going to be forced to increase their rates just so they can continue to compete in this world where they may eventually at some point have to become a ghostwriter. And that changes the perspective of the author, because then the author is going to have this expectation that, yeah, as my editor, you told me that I need to change this thing. You got to tell me how to fix it, like how to actually write it. Can you write it for me? And then the scope of the work slowly but surely changes as the project goes on. So to keep that from being an issue where the editor charges their editor's rates, and then later the scope of work changes mid-project, to keep that from becoming an issue, they're going to charge you the premium rate at the beginning, which may become the ghostwriter's rate. Now, I don't know. That's just my prediction. Sounds a little crazy. I'm going to pause here. I want to know what y'all think. How y'all feel about that?
Humbug.
Okay, so I heard GA first and then Alicia.
I have a question for you.
Okay, well, okay, go ahead, Pastor Jeff. Ask your question and then I'll get reactions.
So my first book, I'll just say this, my first book, I paid for two different editors, one that did the proofreading, and then I paid a topic specific editor who literally told me I couldn't afford her, but anyway, she ended up doing the work, and I didn't pay what she normally wanted. The question is, why can't a person just simply create skills in the AI to do all four types of editing? They type out their manuscript not into the AI, but they literally type it out with the word processor and then make the changes that the AI says in the word processor. It never gets a watermark. It doesn't show AI when you run it through the AI checker because they never literally had AI write anything.
But if AI is editing it and making the changes, doesn't that mean that AI is writing the text?
If AI is making the same type of recommendations that an editor would make, and they're writing, they read it in the AI, they continue to type it in their word processor, they're not copying and pasting out of AI.
I guess in a sense. So let me explain the process and then you let me know if that's something that can be outsourced to AI. Okay, let's start there. So for me, developmental editing always starts with market research. So we have to do the research around, number one, why the author wrote the book, who they wrote the book for, doing the psychographics and the demographics of the perfect reader. And then from there, we are able to figure out what the author wants to do with those readers. So like, what are the readers supposed to walk away with? What are they supposed to learn? How are they supposed to feel? And what are they supposed to do once they get to the last page of the book? So we figure out that information first. When we know what that is, then we're able to kind of build out the vision for how the author is going to leverage the book once the book is done. So how do we plan to monetize this? Every nonfiction book has 13 streams of income. Every fiction book has 22 streams of income, right? So we have to take a look at how does the author plan to leverage those monetizing strategies or those revenue streams. And then we can make sure that that's also included in the book. The other thing is that we have to take a look and understand the author's brand. Unfortunately, a lot of people who start their first books don't have solid brands. So we have to do the brand research and the brand identity creation. So understanding their content pillars, understanding their language, understanding, again, their audience and who they serve, how they show up, all the things. So once we have that information, I guess in a sense, we can kind of feed that into AI, but you let me know. But once we have that information, now we can begin to look at the structure of the book. So before we even begin looking at the actual manuscript, we need to take a look at the outline to see if there are any fundamental issues with the way that the book is structured. So that's table of contents, that's some of the finer details, that's who's going to write the foreword, how are we going to do the introduction, what does your closing chapter look like, and all of that stuff, right? And then of course, is there any research involved in this? So if you've done research, we need to fact check that type of research. Does it make sense? Now, if this is personal story, so you're unlikely to have research so that we can avoid that aspect, but we have to make sure that the memories that you're pulling from are accurate, that the people that you're naming in the book are okay with being named. If this is a fiction book, it's a little bit different, but we'll just focus on nonfiction right now. But yeah, and then that we don't get into any legal issues if you're naming corporations, movie titles, song lyrics, or anything like that. So we have to be careful of copyright. Once we have all of that information, then we can start breaking down the actual manuscript itself. With that main document, if you will, we're able to read through the manuscript and say, okay, yes, this worked. No, this didn't work. This is something that we have to flag for copyright or possible legal issues. This didn't give us the feeling that we wanted. This doesn't sound human enough. Getting into all the different things, right? So really just breaking it down, big picture-esque. I don't know if AI can look at a manuscript and pull all of that information. And one of the big pieces is, how is our readers going to feel when they read this specific element? And does it pull from what the author originally wanted without us making any major changes and staying true and authentic to the author themselves? So I don't know, Pastor Jeff, do you feel like that's something that AI could do?
Absolutely. If you put the work in to put the skills in, to put the agents to work. So it's if the purpose of using AI is to avoid the work, then obviously that is going to be flagged because it's going to show what goes in comes out. If you understand how to use the AI, understand how to use the coding, understand how to create skills, you're telling you what the skills are. If you understand the research, which means you're putting the work in, I think you can get at least 90% of what you shared. But one, you have to know it first, and two, you have to put that information into the AI and then get it back out. But you're still you're not copying and pasting. I think that's where the watermarks come in place. That's where the M dashes come in place. That's where the other special characters come in place, is when you're copying and pasting. If you never copy and paste anything out of AI, how does it show up as being AI? That's what I'm asking and what I'm saying.
Interesting. So then, yeah, I mean, it could be possible. And looking at what GA said in the chat, there might be AI platforms that actually already do that. So then that brings me to a second side of this, though. Uploading your full manuscript to an online AI platform that we don't necessarily own. This is your intellectual property, right? Something that you plan to copyright, something probably you don't want AI to be pulling from it to use it in other people's work or whatever. Do you feel like there's a security issue with making that happen? Because as of right now, me and my team, we do not allow anybody on my team to upload any of our authors' manuscripts into AI unless it's a localized platform. And we don't use any localized AI software. It's all online. So what say you to that?
I say that if, again, we're talking investment, and if you're seeking to avoid the investment, then you're going to get what you pay for. I think on the side, if you buy a powerful enough computer, you set up your open AI to where it's not going out, so you don't have a security system, you're investing. So what I'm saying, Porsche, is you're going to invest one way or another. If you have the wherewithal to invest, to be able to maximize using the AI as a system, as a tool, then I believe it can be done that way. And if you don't, then pay Porsche to do it. That's what I'm saying.
No, don't pay me. I'm not an editor no more. I don't want to do that. But yes, I hear you, Pastor John. GA, what you got?
The one thing that I wanted to say is that the way that they used to tell was like encoding, and like you mentioned, Pastor Jeff, like the M dashes and things of that nature. It's completely different now. It's shifted in the last 12 to 16 months. It's literally like, have y'all ever seen stuff like the Da Vinci Code and whatever, and they have the manuscript, and there's like every 17th word, if you take those out in 142 pages, it makes the secret message to the thing and the whatever. Y'all know what I'm talking about? That's literally what they've done. It's no longer the watermark of the encoding or the secret symbols. It is the syntax and the randomization of the words of the sentence structure that is the signal. It's no longer what it used to. That's why randomizer, humanize, AI, those don't work anymore because they were taking out the symbols. But now they have structured it that there is a pseudo randomization of the word structure that will signal that it's AI. And that is hard to find, identify, and remove. Now, will I tell you the way humans work? They've already got something for it. They just hadn't given it to us yet. They've already got it. They're just waiting to release it, like I said before, so that they can say, hey, if you want to pay $2,000 a month, we have something to actually take the code out. Just get the enterprise package. It's already done. Trust and believe that. But that's the difference. And to your point, Pastor Jeff, Well, you're talking about, and I agree with you, are localized because, all of the AI that I use is not open source. It's not on the server. My desk is stacked with Raspberry Pis. It's stacked with those, and I have all of my servers actually localized. So I work with Claude just in my home or my office. That, to your point, yes. But when you update that system, trust and believe that that's going to be in the package. So I think that you can, and I agree with you, it's going to be where you want to spend the money, not if you're going to spend the money.
Okay. So I think there's a conversation to be had around what you were saying, GA, about the pseudo language that is what people are clocking to say, yes, this is AI. And I'm seeing the chat and they're talking about the M dashes. I loved M dashes. And it's like, dang, we can't even use it now because people are just going to assume that you must have used AI. But you know what's interesting, right? We have to remember that AI uses improper grammar. It just does. So for me, yes, I started out as a freelance editor. I don't do editing anymore. There's other things I enjoy, but starting out as a freelance editor because grammar was a huge part of my life. I loved working up text so that it was grammatically correct. So for me, understanding the mechanics of grammar was part of my entire profession. So we were editing these books and doing all the things. When I see an AI generated book, you'll notice that they're using improper grammar all the time, starting sentences with conjunctions, using short, punchy sentences that are incomplete sentences, using improper grammar. If you notice that the way that AI uses M dashes, it's actually incorrect. It's replacing M dashes with semicolons. Right. So there will be times where a sentence actually requires a semicolon, but instead AI will incorporate 2 M dashes, but it should be a semicolon and then maybe later a colon, or maybe it will be a semicolon and then the completion of the idea, which means it will have a period at the end. Now we could geek out about grammar mechanics, but it's important for us to understand that, because the other thing that I had been noticing is that as people are reading AI written text, it's becoming the way that they write now. So they're not even using AI anymore. Some people are, not everybody, but some people are actually writing themselves, but they're mirroring the way AI writes because that's what they see all the time. So then it becomes like this new way of writing, but it's still improper grammar. If we go back to like grammar school and all the rules and regulations around that, it's wrong. And on top of it, it's creating what I like to call fake impact. Because if you read AI text, it will use these short, punchy sentences to try to deliver impact. But it will be like almost every sentence is super short, less than, I would say, 5 words. And it's just on and on and on. And then it's starting with conjunctions like if, ands, or buts, right? Or to, or because, that sort of thing, right? We don't do that when we're writing in books. We do that when we write speeches. So AI, when it's generating copy for most people, especially if you haven't trained it, right? This is untrained AI, just how it produces on its own default. AI's default is writing almost in speech language, because when you're writing a speech and you go to deliver it, short, punchy sentences actually work. But it can't be every sentence. Otherwise, the impact is lost and you don't feel it anymore. But that's how people write now. I got a manuscript 2 weeks ago, and his whole book was like every sentence was only about 5 words, which is crazy. I'm like, dude, I can't read like this, because you have to understand that when you break the sentence, you are creating what we used to call a new idea, right? So when you add a period, it's a full stop. That's why it's called that. It's a full stop, and you begin the next idea. When you write books, you have to understand that your readers aren't reading in your voice. They don't know what you sound like. So they're going to read it in their own voice. So for every punctuation that you include, it may mess up the flow for the reader, which disrupts the reader's experience. It becomes laborious to read if every sentence is only 5 words and you're disrupting the thought every time they move to the next line. And so unfortunately, this guy had literally, it was 514 pages of his book, but that was because every sentence was on a new line and it was only about 5 to 7 words. And I'm like, guy, this isn't a book. This is a speech, a really long speech, because if he stood on stage and delivered it, it would hit different. But if it's in a book and your readers are reading it, it doesn't hit the way that you think it does. So there's something to be said about the written language of all of that. It's crazy. But I want to go to Alicia because she was also bah humbug. Alicia, what you thinking? How you feeling?
Honestly, it's a bummer for me because I use it for an editor, right? I'm not gonna lie, and that's a bummer for me because what's a big deal? It's my own freaking words. Like, it's my words that they're just helping clean up. I just don't get it. I get like writing an entire book and doing the whole thing and all that, but I just don't get it, and it's annoying. And that's it. I just say bah humbug, like with I just say bah humbug. That's it.
I feel you. Okay, so here's the thing though, okay? There's nothing wrong with, other than like uploading your full manuscript to AI. I don't do that because of intellectual property. I know some people are going to be like, well, they're doing it anyway. It's fine. Like, if you don't care, you don't care. That's fine. But there's nothing wrong with having AI take a look to see if there's anything major missing. But kind of going back to what Pastor Jeff said, the current systems are not set up to do the work that editors do, to do the developmental editing, to do the copy and line editing. It can do proofreading quite well, but it will still miss things because it uses incorrect grammar. It all comes down to, at the end of the day, though, whether or not you care as an author, right? We always start with the market research because we want to understand the mindset of our readers. And so we look at what are our readers' expectations? What type of books are they regularly consuming? Does language and proper grammar and different tones of voice, does that stuff matter to them? If it doesn't, then by all means, because you're not writing the book for the general public, you're writing the book for your decided audience. So you can make that choice. But for me, the way that me and my authors work on our books, those things do matter to me, especially because, like, my background as an editor, imagine me publishing a book and then there's grammatical errors, there's not necessarily typos, because typos and grammatical errors are two different things, but misused punctuation, run-on sentences, broken ideas, right? Long paragraphs that should be cut short, ideas that just really don't complete the thought, or fluff. Another thing that's huge for AI is big on repetition. If you ask AI to write you a 5-page something, you will notice that it is repeating the same idea over and over and over again. It'll just say it a different way. It'll sound good though, because it's using really awesome verbiage. Like the wording is, wow, it's amazing. It sounds awesome. But if you read this paragraph and then you jump down 3 paragraphs later, you will recognize that it's kind of saying the same thing, just in a different way, using different words. So it's something that we want to pay attention to. If that doesn't matter to you, then by all means. But for those that it does matter for, that's something that we might want to take a look at. Anybody else want to chime in?
Hey, Portia, it's Maisha. I feel like I'm the only one on stage that's not really bothered by this, except for the fact that it's a money grab. Like, I think that's just distasteful. I'm disgusted by that. I'm not an editor, but I write. I've been in an anthology. I get turned off as soon as I see stuff and I know it's AI. Like, I'll read it, I'll know it's AI. It's flat for me. Like, I can't feel it. It's nothing. Now, I've used AI. I have since deleted it. I rarely use it now. But I went through a period where I just had brain fog. I couldn't get my thoughts out, and I used AI. But I kind of did what Pastor Jeff said. I copied and pasted it. I read it, and then I rewrote it. So I used AI as the jump off for me to really just see my thoughts. And then I rewrote things in my words, like my way, and literally typed out whatever it was. But there are times when I have used it to create like coursework and things like that. And I was like, I'm not in it. You know, that's how I operate. Like, my essence wasn't in the thing. It was created, but I wasn't in it. So I know that there are times when we need to use it. I know sometimes folks really have ideas that they want to get out. And I think that AI can be a great tool for people who have ideas, but maybe have difficulty writing. I know that's a real thing. But I see so much of it now, and it all sounds the same, that I'm hoping maybe this will be a way for creative writing teachers to make some money, for editors to make some money, for people to go take classes with actual human beings and learn how to put their own essence in their writing, kind of like going to Toastmasters to learn how to speak, right? To learn how to talk on stage. So maybe this will open up the field of writing again. I don't know. I yield.
Ooh, Maisha, I love you because yes. Okay, let's break that down. There's two things there that I really want to hit on. First and foremost, the voice of the author. You're absolutely right. I would say recently, I would say maybe in the last year, I have noticed that authors don't have a voice anymore. They used to. Like, you could be able to pick up a book without seeing the author's name and know that like Stephen King wrote it, or John Grisham wrote it, or Brene Brown wrote it. Like, because authors used to have a style. It's like singing. When you could turn on a song, hear a completely new song, never heard the song before, but you listen to the voice and you know who's singing. That's how writing used to be. Authors had a style. Authors had a voice. And you're right. It's interesting because it's not even something that I noticed immediately. It took a little bit of time. And as you're explaining it right now, it's kind of coming back to me. It's true. I can't identify authors anymore. And that's heartbreaking because that's the beauty of like where ghostwriting comes in. Like we talked about method acting. Ghostwriters are very good at identifying the voice of an author, so much so that they can then replicate it. And that's how that works. But in this day and age where an author themselves don't have a voice anymore and they're just writing for the sake of writing, or they're using AI, there is no, like you said, essence in it. There isn't. And that's really disheartening because then it's like, well, how are you unique? Yes, you might be like telling your personal story, but like, how would you actually tell this story if I was sitting across from you? That's how books need to be written. A lot of people have this idea that, okay, my book needs to have this collegiate, very educated voice. It needs to sound super professional. It needs to sound a certain way. But if I were sitting across from you and you were to deliver the same information, or you were to retell this same story, if I picked up your book, it should sound the same. If it doesn't, that means you've written out your own voice. And that's the thing that hurts me. The other aspect of this is the codependency. So another thing that that's a struggle for me. And it kind of breaks my heart a little bit because when I'm working with authors now, if we do have to start back from the drawing board, like I got to tell them, hey, I need you to rewrite this chapter, or I need you to rewrite this paragraph, they really struggle with being able to pick up the pen and actually make it happen. They're struggling now with being able to formulate sentences and figuring out how this idea should be presented. And I do believe that it's because like as we get older, we're not writing essays anymore. We don't have to write long form content really. It's just short and punchy. We send out the email really quick. We're doing text messages. We're doing social media captions. So it's not really long form text anymore. But when we were back in school, we had to write all the time. So our writing skills were very much locked in. Like we were doing the thing. We had to write. We had to formulate our sentences. And that's where the creative writing came in. Like we used to have creating writing classes back in school. Did you know creative writing is no longer a class in school? That's crazy. Kids don't have to take creative writing. So as we get older and we graduate from school, we're no longer having to write, we get into our daily lives. Our daily lives as an adult really doesn't require long form writing unless you're kind of in that industry or unless you're producing content that requires that. And the average adult, I would say, wouldn't. So we tend to lose those skills anyway. But as entrepreneurs, those of us who are like publishing nonfiction books, we do have the opportunity to tap back into our creative writing skills. And that'll be writing our blog posts, writing our email newsletters, doing longer form caption, especially like on platforms like LinkedIn, where long form content is preferred. Like you could still do your video, but your caption should be pretty lengthy. we have the ability to tap back in so that we can refine those skills and continue writing in that capacity. However, we are now outsourcing that work to AI. So now we don't even have to think to formulate that content. We don't have to. AI is doing it for us. So now that we're outsourcing it and we're no longer in school, we're not creating spaces for ourselves to be able to sharpen our creative writing skills or sharpen the tools required to deliver communication through the form of long form writing. So when it's time for you to decide, well, yeah, I definitely need that book because, hey, at the end of the day, if you want to build authority, you want to grow your thought leadership, you need to have a book. You need to do two things. You need to speak and you need to write a book. At the end of the day, that's like just the easiest thing that you could do, best thing that you could do, easiest way to generate revenue and start playing on a different level, right? You step into the room with the elites in your industry, you need to have a book and you need to speak on stages. So you're writing speeches now. And now you're writing books. But if you weren't doing that in your business before, you're going to need a lot of help because the creative writing skills aren't there. So what do you do again? Outsource it one more time. But as you're doing that, the voice is gone. So when you take that manuscript and you're like giving it to your editor and the editor says, hey, yeah, this doesn't really work. Where are you? Doesn't sound like you. I'm going to need you to start from the drawing board. You can't. Because you've been outsourcing writing your entire professional career as an entrepreneur or as an aspiring thought leader. So yeah, just like Maisha said, you have to start going back to those creative writing classes. And for me, what I've been doing with a lot of my authors is that I have been forced to take my active clients and we've been doing bi-weekly training sessions on Zoom, helping them with their writing skills. And a lot of what I'm pulling from is the same stuff that we learned in grade school, right? Understanding subjects and predicate, right? Understanding the parts of a sentence and parts of speech, understanding nouns and adjectives and verbs and adverbs and all of that stuff. We have to start back over because we lost all of that. But the beauty is, the clients are willing to do that because they understand the importance of one, having a solid voice, and two, identifying themselves in what they're sharing with the world. Because imagine getting on stage and you're speaking from something that AI wrote for you. What? I had a number of people who have written manuscripts, and when I go to ask questions about the manuscript that they wrote, they can't answer it because they don't know what's in it. Or they're like, well, I want to speak. How are you going to speak when AI created the framework that you're supposed to be speaking from? So you don't know it innately. It's not in you. So you now have to go back to what AI created for you. You got to study it. You got to learn it so you know it as if it came from you. You could avoid all that mess if you had created it yourself first. So the codependency is getting real, man. And it just breaks my heart because I feel like we all have the capacity to be our most creative selves. And as we continue to outsource that creativity, we lose that ability. But that's the thing that makes us human. Because at the end of the day, we have to remember, and this is a conversation that we had around creating titles. A lot of my authors were like, well, I'm going to use ChatGPT to help me come up with a title for my book. But then I let them know, understand that ChatGPT will never be able to create anything new. It will never be something you've never heard before. Only you can do that. Because remember, AI is pulling from main source. From everything that we've all ever created is what it's pulling from to create something for you. It will never be new. So where does innovation live? Innovation cannot live in AI. Innovation lives within you. So then the question you get to ask yourself as an author is, how important is innovation to me? How important is innovation to what I'm doing? Innovation around what I'm doing. How important is that to my audience? And for me, innovation is everything. I don't want to sound like everybody else. No, I'm already an outlier in the industry that I'm in. So I want to keep that individual identity to myself. I want to say, okay, you can't write like Porsché Mysticque. You can't speak like her. You can't move like her. You can't do what she does. That uniqueness is very important to me. And, shout out to my daddy for giving me the middle name Mystique, because that's what I want to live up to. I want to live up to the idea of being mysterious, being Mystique, being something that cannot be replicated. So it is very important to me to make sure that I don't lose my creativity. I don't lose my innovation, and everything that I produce comes from me. And then the question is, well, AI is going to help you like refine that, right? It's going to develop that. Yes, it can. And that's where research comes from. But also, that's why I take on mentors. That's why I'm willing to invest in having people around me to help me sharpen my skills and even refine my way of thinking. Because when I have access to the greater collective, I can learn more. Absolutely. Because my field of view is thin. It's small, right? I can only learn but so much in my little bubble. So I do have to expand. And that's the beauty of AI. It can expand my mind. But once my mind has been expanded, it's still going to come back to me to be an innovator and say, now that I have this information, how can I refine it? What are the gaps? How can I change it? Is something missing? Is something broken? Can I actually break this? I like breaking stuff because if I could break it, I could rebuild it. Right? So that's the beauty of that. Pastor Jeff, what you got for me?
I think you may be in the last generation that actually took creative writing as was mandatory in high school when I came through. And you're talking to a mature audience. The majority of us understand the parts of a sentence. We know what a subject is, a predicate, adverb, a verb, and a noun. Unfortunately, now we have these young people who they're not even teaching them how to do cursive writing. So if you ask them to sit down and write out their thoughts, they're not going to do it because it takes too long to write it out one letter at a time. So what other choice do they have but to use the AI, because they're coming out of high school, going into college, not being able to write their own name, not being able to write a letter or write a paragraph. They don't understand creative thought. So they either going to pay for someone else to do it, or they're going to use the AI. I mean, that's the society that we're living in now.
That's facts. I just need to shout out Judy real quick because Judy is dropping some mad gems in the chat. She said, let me see. Let me go back. No, there was something powerful. She said, yes, most students didn't know how to write properly, especially in the United States educational system. Now all these people want to write a book. I'm sorry. That's woo. Kizzy says, what online creative writing classes do you recommend? You know what, Kizzy? I have to do research on that. I don't know if I know like your local college. I would take a look at your local, that's not necessarily universities, but take a look at your community colleges and see if there are any creative writing courses there. They're usually cheap. You could kind of just jump in and see what they have for you. But for me, it's something that I definitely do for my clients because it's like, we can't play that game. But then she says, Judy said, writing correctly grammatically doesn't make a good fiction writer. A lot of times you throw out some of the rules. I'm gonna pause there because that's true. And I would say it also applies to nonfiction as well, especially those of us who are using storytelling in our nonfiction. A lot of times we will use colloquial language or maybe even slang. So, well, slang is colloquial language, but we'll break up a lot of the text. Will be a little bit more free with breaking some of the rules. But then her final sentence is, but you have to know the rules to break them. That part. Absolutely. You have to know the rules in order to break them. Otherwise, you're just doing stuff and it may not hit the way that you want it to hit. And that's where intention comes in. River says, imagination and creativity is everything in creation. Be uniquely you. Kizzy says, I want my 10-year-old. Oh, Kizzy, take a look at your local library. I know my local library often has creative writing classes for kids, especially during the summer. I know we're coming out of summer, but they might have something. And if they don't, you could actually propose something. Say, hey, y'all, listen, we need creative writing classes for kids here. Is there anybody that you know that we can potentially do an event with, right? So I would make it happen in your local community for sure. For sure. Anybody else want to jump in? I got 1 minute left. Give me one more share.
We love you.
Love you guys too. Hey, listen, y'all, this was such a great conversation. I appreciate everybody for joining. For those of you who are watching on YouTube and Instagram, we're over here on Clubhouse. What are you doing over there? You need to come over here. Go to bwcdaily.com, join the conversation, join us on Clubhouse, download the app. This is Breakfast with Champions. My name is Porsché Mysticque Show, award-winning book coach, publishing strategist, TEDx speaker, and speaker coach. I'm passing the mic over to Marcus Black. And until next time, y'all, Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific. My time is up. Marcus, how you feeling?
Yo, what up, superstar? Hope you're doing incredibly well. I'm doing good, great, fine, and dandy. Super excited for another day. You know why? Because we woke up in time.
All right, y'all. Thank y'all so much for watching. Shout out to YouTube and Instagram if you're watching this live. Appreciate you. See a bunch of people. Jen, what's up? Jen, I haven't seen you in forever. So good to see you on Instagram. Frank is on Instagram. Anna Jo, the one and only. Ooh, her book is coming out. Yes, Neil is here. Hannah, thank you for being here. Melina, thank you for being here. Shayma, thank you for being here. Thank y'all so much for watching this live. You know we do the Porsché Mysticque Show every Wednesday morning, 6 a.m. Eastern. No, 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern, right here, Instagram and YouTube. Make sure you guys are following me if you are not already. Click that like button and go ahead, drop some comments, do all the things. Give me some love, show me some love. Thank y'all so much, and until next time, bye guys.